I am going to tell you something that sounds like it cannot possibly be true, and yet I have watched it be true my whole life. The people I grew up around did not scrub themselves raw. They did not own a shelf full of soaps and sprays and scented things. They did not attack their skin every morning the way so many people do now. And yet they did not carry that smell, the one we all quietly worry about as the years go by, the one that seems to arrive uninvited somewhere after 60. They stayed fresh, and they did it gently, and for a long time I did not understand how. Now I understand, and I want to share it with you, woman to woman, the way it was shared with me. Let me begin with the thing nobody says out loud. As we age, our bodies change in a way that has nothing to do with how clean we are. The skin begins to produce a certain substance, and when it meets the air, it turns into a compound with a scent of its own. This was studied carefully in Japan many years ago, and they even have a word for it because they took it seriously rather than pretending it did not exist. And here is what matters most about that. It is not caused by being dirty, which means it is not solved by scrubbing harder. I want you to hear that clearly because most women, the moment they begin to worry about this, do the one thing that makes it worse. They scrub. They scrub and they scrub, and the skin grows raw and irritated and stripped. And raw, stripped skin actually produces more of the very oils that feed the smell. The harder they fight, the worse it gets, and they cannot understand why. The old way is the opposite of fighting. It is gentle, it is patient, and it is built around understanding rather than force. So let me walk you through it slowly, because the gentleness is the whole point and the order is the secret. The first thing, and this surprises everyone, is that you do not clean yourself inside the bath. In the old way, the warm soak is something separate, something that comes afterward, only once you are already clean. You wash first, sitting outside the tub, and the soak is for resting in clean water, not for cleaning yourself in dirty water. This one idea changes everything because it means the washing gets its own time and its own attention. It is not a quick thing you do in 30 seconds while the water runs over you. It is deliberate. So you sit and you wet the whole body with warm water. Then you take a soft cloth, one with just a little texture, and you begin. And here is the part that I want you to remember above all else, because it is where the gentleness and the knowledge come together. You do not need to be rough anywhere, but there are certain places that need your attention, and they are not the places women usually focus on. We tend to wash the parts we can see, the arms, the front, the legs. But the smell I am describing gathers most in the quiet places, the ones we cannot see in the mirror. The back of the neck, just under the hairline, behind the ears, in that little fold, the upper back between the shoulder blades, and along the chest near the collarbone. These are the places. My grandmother took my hand once when I was a girl and placed it on the back of my own neck, and she told me, here is where a woman must be tender with herself every night for the rest of her life. I did not understand. I do now, because that exact strip of skin, The back of the neck and behind the ears and the upper back is where the science later confirmed the aging compound concentrates most. The old women knew it before anyone measured it. They knew it from a lifetime of paying attention. They did not need a laboratory to tell them what their own long lives had already taught them. So you bring the soft cloth gently to those places, and you give them the most time, not the least. You reach behind your ears. You draw the cloth up the back of the neck along the hairline. You reach across to the upper back, the way the old women did, with a longer cloth they could hold at both ends. And you do it gently, without force, letting the soft texture lift away what needs lifting. Gentle and thorough always wins over hard and quick, and never more so than as the skin grows older and thinner and asks to be treated with more tenderness rather than less. Now, I told you these women barely use soap, and that is true, so let me explain it. They did not lather themselves head to toe in strong detergents the way the advertisements tell us to. Strong soaps strip the skin of the natural oils that protect it, and stripped skin overproduces oil to recover, and that overproduction feeds the smell. So they used very little, and what they used was mild. There is a traditional soap made from the tannins of the persimmon fruit that has been used in Japan for generations, specifically for this, because it works gently with the skin rather than against it. But you do not need anything special. A small amount of a mild soap used with care on the right places does far more than a heavy lather of something harsh used everywhere. Less soap used better is the whole lesson. The women who barely scrubbed stayed fresh precisely because they barely scrubbed. They were not neglecting their skin. They were protecting it. After the washing comes the soak. And the soak is a gift you give yourself at the end of the day. When you lower into warm water already clean, the warmth opens the skin and relaxes the whole body and draws out a little more of what the washing began. But more than that, it quiets the mind. It closes the day. The old women did not separate caring for the body from caring for the spirit, and a woman who rests well and sleeps well carries that calm into everything, including into how her own body behaves. There is more truth in that than modern life wants to admit. But now I must tell you the step that women undo most often. And it breaks my heart how common it is. After the bath, you must dry yourself completely. The smell I am describing loves warmth and dampness, and if you pull your nightclothes over skin that is still the least bit damp, especially in those quiet places, the back of the neck, the upper back, you have made the exact home the odor wants. So you dry every fold, behind the ears, the back of the neck, the upper back as best you can reach, and then you let the skin breathe for just a moment before you dress. The old women would sit a while in a light robe and let the evening air finish the drying. There is real wisdom in that small pause. Dry skin simply does not hold the smell the way damp skin does, and most of the failures I have seen came down to nothing more than a woman in a hurry who did not dry herself well. The bath is the foundation, But let me give you the rest of the day too, because the old women left nothing to chance. Your clothing matters more than you would think. That compound clings to fabric, and once it is in the fabric, it stays, and then no amount of bathing helps because every morning you dress yourself back into yesterday's smell. The collars of blouses especially, where the fabric meets the back of the neck, must be washed often and washed well. The old women aired their clothing constantly. They hung things in the sun, and the sun itself freshens fabric in a way no machine fully matches. So wash your collars often, hang things in the light, let the sun do its quiet work. And the bedding, oh the bedding. We lie in our beds a third of our lives, the skin resting against the same sheets and the same pillow night after night, giving off its oils into that fabric for hours. If the bedding is not aired and washed often, it becomes a quiet reservoir of the very smell you are working to remove, and then you lie down in it and breathe it and wear it all night. The old women aired their bedding in the sun whenever the weather allowed, hanging it in the morning light. So wash your pillowcases often, more often than you think you need to, and air your bedding and let the light into the room. It is part of the same gentle habit, only done by day. There is the matter of the scalp, which women forget because it hides under the hair. The scalp ages just as the skin does, and the smell can settle there unseen. So when you wash, work your fingers gently down to the scalp itself, not just the hair, and rinse until the water runs clean. And the feet, closed in shoes all day, warm and damp, which is exactly what the odor loves. Wash them with care between the toes and dry them just as carefully. These are small things, but the old women knew that freshness is made of small things done faithfully, not grand things done once. The evening bath is the heart of it, but let me give you the morning too, because it takes only a moment. When you wake, before anything else, a little warm water on the face, the neck, behind the ears, just those quiet places, clears away whatever the night left behind and lets you begin the day truly fresh, rather than carrying the night out into the world with you. You do not need another full bath. Just that small rinse on the same places, and you step into your day clean. The old women did this first thing, as natural to them as opening the curtains, and it set the tone for everything that followed. And the seasons ask different things of us, so we must listen to them. In the warm months, the body works harder and gives off more, and the smell can build more quickly, so the care must be a little more frequent, and the drying even more careful than usual. In the cold months, when the room is chilly and the bed is warm, and every part of you wants to skip the bath and climb under the covers, that is exactly when you must not skip it, because we are bundled in heavy layers all day, and the warmth trapped beneath those layers does its quiet work, whether we bathe or not. The old women never let the cold excuse them. The evening bath was the evening bath, in the heat of summer and the cold of winter alike, and that faithfulness, that refusal to let a single night slip by, is half of why it works so well for them across so many long years. And then there is what we take into the body, because the smell does not come only from outside. The old way of eating leaned on simple foods, fish and vegetables and fermented things, and green tea above all, cup after cup, all day long. Green tea carries substances that work against odor from the inside, and the women drank it without ever calling it medicine. They simply drank it because it was good. A diet heavy in fried and oily and rich foods feeds the very chemistry that makes the smell. A lighter, greener, simpler way of eating does the opposite. You need not change everything at once, but a cup of green tea in place of one heavier thing, made a habit across the years, does quiet work that no one will ever see and everyone around you will feel. I want to return to where I began, to the worry, because it is the thing that matters most. So many women carry this fear in silence. They wonder if others notice something. They grow anxious when someone leans close. They begin, without even deciding to pull back from the embraces and the closeness that make a life warm, all because of a quiet, private fear about a perfectly natural thing. And what I want you to take from an old woman tonight is this: there is no shame in it, none. The body ages, the chemistry shifts. It happens to every single woman fortunate enough to grow older, and growing older is a gift that not everyone is given. The only question is whether you meet it with knowledge or with worry, and I am asking you gently to meet it with knowledge. Let me also warn you against the thing most women reach for first, because it is exactly the wrong thing. When the worry sets in, the instinct is to cover the smell. A strong perfume, a scented spray, something layered on top. But covering a smell is not removing a smell. The two scents mix, and the result is often stronger and more obvious than either alone. And it announces to everyone that there is something being hidden. The old way does the opposite. It removes the cause gently, so that what remains is simply clean skin. And clean skin has the loveliest scent of all, which is almost no scent at all. Do not reach for the perfume. Reach for the soft cloth and the warm water. Remove rather than cover, and you will never be given away by the mixture. And let the water be warm, not hot. Older skin is delicate, and water that is too hot strips it and dries it and irritates it. And irritated skin overproduces the very oils that feed the smell. Warm and patient, never hot and hurried. Let time do the work rather than heat. That is the rule for the water, just as gentleness is the rule for everything else in this practice. I have watched what this fear steals from women, and it is not the smell that does the damage. It is the pulling away. I have known graceful women who stopped holding their grandchildren close, who kept a careful distance at gatherings, who turned just slightly in conversation, always keeping a little space, and the people around them never understood why and assumed it was coolness or age. It was none of that. It was a small, private shame about a natural thing, and it quietly stole years of closeness from them for no reason at all. Do not let it be you. The whole purpose of caring for the body is so that you can stop thinking about the body and simply be present with the people you love. A woman who has done the small thing well forgets about it entirely. She embraces freely, she sits close, she lives unguarded. That freedom is the true reward, greater even than the freshness itself. There is one more thing I have learned across all these years, and it is perhaps the deepest part of all. The body and the mind are not two separate things, however much we treat them so. When a woman is anxious, when she does not sleep, when she carries tension and worry all day and into the night, her body answers in its own language, and that language includes the way it smells. The old women understood this without ever being taught it. The evening bath was not only a washing, it was a laying down of the day's burdens. They soaked, and they let the warm water carry away the cares as much as the dust. They slept deeply because they had closed the day properly. And a body that rests, that is calm, that is not braced against the world all night long, behaves differently and more gently in every way. So do not think of this only as scrubbing the right places. Think of it as a kindness you give yourself at the end of each day, a few quiet minutes that are yours alone, in which you tend to yourself the way you have spent a lifetime tending to everyone else. That kindness shows on the skin. It always has. And I will tell you something my grandmother told me that I have never forgotten. She said, "A clean woman is not the one who smells the strongest of flowers and powders. A clean woman is the one you can stand close to and notice nothing at all, only warmth, only presence, only her." That is the goal. Not to add something, but to need nothing added. Not to mask, but to be so simply and quietly fresh that there is nothing to mask. The women I grew up around achieved that with a soft cloth and warm water and a little patience, and so can you, at any age, starting tonight. So here is the whole of it, and notice how gentle it is. A soft cloth. A little mild soap, a few extra moments given to the back of the neck, behind the ears, the upper back, every evening. Complete drying afterward, clean collars, aired bedding, a little sunlight, a cup of green tea, and warm water rather than hot. That is all. Not harsh scrubbing. Not a shelf of products, not a single thing you must rush out and buy. Just an old, tender way of caring for yourself that the women before us understood in their bones. The women who barely scrubbed and yet stayed fresh their whole long lives, because they knew the secret that the modern world forgot. Gentleness, attention, and the quiet places given their due. Try it tonight. Be tender with yourself. Give those quiet places the care they have always deserved. Dry yourself well, and then rest, knowing you have met one more part of growing older, not with fear, but with the calm, patient wisdom of the women who came before us, who understood far better than we do in our hurried age, that the body is worth caring for gently, thoroughly, and every single day of the life we are lucky enough to be living. That is the habit. That is the whole secret. And now, my dear, it is yours.